Good evening. This is CTV News for Friday, March the 22nd. I'm Sonia Shrivastava. Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, family and friends packed a courtroom in Upper Marlboro today for the sentencing of a former narcotics officer who killed his loved ones. And now that it's all done, they say justice has been served. Richmond Phillips gets life behind bars for killing his mistress and their baby. Our Denise Douglas has the story.
Richmond Phillips, a former D.C. police officer, will spend the rest of his life behind bars. A judge today here in court in Upper Marlboro sentenced him to 2 life terms for killing Winetta Wright and their 11-month-old baby, Jalen. Phillips had been having an affair with Wright and did not want to pay child support, prosecutors say. He shot the 20-year-old in the park at Hillcrest Heights Community Center and left their baby to die in a hot car back in 2011. After the sentencing today, Wright's parents said they have been waiting 2 years for this day.
My babies are gone and they're never coming back. Time that he has is just not enough. He should have received the death penalty, but he didn't. So, I mean, it's just nothing more. I'm just grateful that he got what he deserved.
Well, I just want to say I'm glad justice has been served. Now, a whole lot just fell off me. You know, my babies could live just, my babies could rest in peace now. You know, everything has been served.
The state's attorney agreed that justice has been served, pointing out that the crime was particularly tragic because Richmond betrayed the community's trust since he was a police officer.
He continues to deny, and I think the judge was accurate in her assessment that he didn't care. His disregard was just breathtaking, and it continues to be, and we are proud to say that he will never walk among the free again.
Phillips was also sentenced to 20 years on the use of a handgun charge and 25 years on a child abuse charge. I'm Denise Douglas in Upper Marlboro, CTV News.
Now, prior to the killings, Phillips had been on the Metropolitan Police Force since 2003. Well, Prince George's County Executive Rashawn Baker stands firm on his desire to strip the school board of some of its responsibilities. If Baker's integrated school governance proposal passes, the board will no longer control the system's $1.7 billion budget or have the power to select the next superintendent. Additional representatives who specialize in areas like finance and education would also be appointed to the board. Baker says he believes this is the best plan for positive change.
Look at big cities and urban areas where they have similar problems to ours in Prince George's County. This is the type of government structure they're putting together to make sure we're held accountable. We know what we've done in the past. If we keep doing that, we're going to get the same results. We've got to make a change.
Well, if the bill passes, the next superintendent would report to the county executive and the county council instead of the school board. Well, Prince George's Board of Education Chair Regina Jacobs has had an interesting week. There are strong opinions on the issue from both sides. Earlier, I sat down with Jacobs today for an in-depth interview. So, Ms. Jacobs, this is certainly a topic that everyone has been talking about. Tell me about how you found out about this.
Well, we found out about this Friday, last Friday, a week today. Got a call from Annapolis that I heard about a bill that was had been dropped to take over the school system, and that came from our lobbyist, Lynn Lucci.
And then when did you actually hear from Mr. Baker himself?
He actually did call me later that evening, on Friday evening, and indicated that you know, he wanted to talk about the bill and wanted to talk about some of the details and perhaps get some feedback.
Tell me about that conversation when he called and he told you about his plans. Tell me what was going on in your head and what was your initial reaction after that?
Well, I was reeling somewhat because everything was going on in my head. I got to talk to my colleagues. How are they going to feel impacted by this? How does this affect our kids? You know, it was a lot of questions. But the conversation was very pleasant. He assured me that this was really a philosophical belief of his in terms of, you know, student achievement and those kinds of things. And he indicated that it had nothing to do with any issues with the school system necessarily, but that he just felt, you know, he could do something with the change. And so obviously once we finally was able to read the legislation, it didn't make, the pieces of it didn't make sense or didn't come together in a way that it demonstrated, at least to me, how just the shift in governance would make a difference in the outcomes for kids. So we think it should be more robust in terms of reform efforts and what it would look like.
Now, I know that a lot of our community members are very passionate,
Yes.
and that's why they get on the school board. I mean, if you look at how much they're getting paid, it's not much, and they most of them have other jobs. So their passion is something that most people would say is what we need to capitalize on. But some of them don't have the experience sometimes to be able to handle a $1.7 billion budget. Do you agree with that, or do you feel that whatever else they bring in is enough to, bridge the gap?
So we all come with different backgrounds, but I think that sort of underscores what we need to do a better job at in terms of what the job is of a school board member. So it's not the job of the school board member to manage a $1.6 billion budget. It's the job to provide oversight of that budget. And that's why we have a superintendent who should hire the best staff around him or her to make sure that the fiscal house is in order. And the school board is supposed to set policies that will guarantee trust but verify. And so that's our job. Now, I want to make this clear that this Board of Education cares about education and believes that every child should have the opportunity to go to college and get a college degree. But what I think you have is a balance of a single parent who has 2 children, who can understand the single parent who needs to know how to navigate the system. 2 grandmothers who have children in the school system, one of which has children in the school system, parents whose kids graduated from this school system, board members who graduated from this school system. So I think that collective body of concern and ability and willingness to serve makes a big difference. Clearly, in every election cycle, there should be, and I would say this to Mr. Baker as well, if we want to make sure that we have people who are qualified and, their qualifications also mean to serve, then let's encourage more people to get involved in the process. I mean, it is hard. This is hard work to have a full-time job and be able to manage the demands of the school board. It's not something where you have 2 meetings a month, which is what's pretty much sold when people run for this office. It's just much more than that.
What do you say to the people who, after the story came out, we interviewed a bunch of residents, and their concern was that I want to see a #1 top quality school system, which I'm sure that most school board members want to see as well, and they feel that anything that will get them to that level, they're all for it. What is your answer to those residents?
That's a good question. My answer to them is I agree with you, and we really need to be on the same page about that. One of the problems I think the school system suffers from is, one, we don't do a good enough job getting the message out about the gains. But that doesn't change that parents sometimes feel disenfranchised. They feel like they're not getting what they're supposed to get. So we have to do a better job communicating. A lot of it is about customer service. Parents are able to account for like a situation that's happened with them. At the end of the day, it has to be a system that looks at not only what the needs are of the students, but how do we make sure we best serve those needs. And so there's so many opportunities to do that in this county. It's not a matter of not owning what's ours, as I always say, but it really is about how do we change the dynamics so that those parents who are paying for private school will actually trust in the system and realize that if they bring their kids into the school, that makes us better. So we really need to do a better job of communicating the progress.
And I know that the school system has made some significant gains in the last couple of years, especially on advanced placement tests, some Maryland standard tests. So looking at all of those gains, do you think that at this point, if something like, just a total takeover was to happen, do you think it would take away from the progress you've already made?
To be honest with you, with Common Core coming along and everybody sort of trying to grapple with what that's going to look like with the state assessments and the new requirements, I think it will. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're already going to see some shifts to change the governance structure without a plan, without really directed specific plans of reform. I think, could make us go in the wrong direction. We've kept.
Now, there are 123,000 students currently enrolled in Prince George's County Public Schools. And you are watching CTV News. I'm Sonia Shrivastava.